Austrian police have thwarted an alleged terror plot targeting Taylor Swift's upcoming concerts. As a result, the singer canceled all three of her Vienna, Austria shows planned for this coming weekend. According to officials, they found chemical explosives, detonators, and ISIS propaganda at the main suspect's home. Joining us now is CNN's Nick Paton-Walsh. Nick, what are you learning? I know you've been following these developments very closely.
Yeah, Wolf, it's startling that the three suspects Austrian police are questioning or have detained, and there's no one else at this point they're looking for, are all teenagers. Now, the prime suspect here is a 19-year-old who appears to have pledged allegiance to the new leader of ISIS early in July, and then late July, the 25th, actually, officials say, quit his job, saying he was planning something big and changed his appearance. Now, police found yesterday at his home, about an hour's drive from the Taylor Swift concert venues, precursors for explosives, detonators, $21,000 in counterfeit currency, and even a police blue flashing light. Now, they suspect that he was going to use that light to ease access to his vehicle into the crowds around the periphery of the Swift concerts that was supposed to be tonight, tomorrow and Saturday night as well. They then say, officials, that he was going to essentially lead to his own death, act as a suicide attacker with explosives and knives against the thousands of people who often go to these European concerts of Swift to overhear, to join in the atmosphere without necessarily having to pay the significant fees for the tickets. Now, he was joined, it seems, by a 17-year-old. Not quite clear if they were going to be executing or more involved in the planning, but a 17-year-old who police say recently broke up with his girlfriend, evidence perhaps of his state of mind. All these two individuals Austrian-born, and a third Austrian-born 15-year-old boy who, it says the investigation, potentially had knowledge of the plot as it developed, but may not have been necessarily involved in its execution. So a lot of detailed planning here, radicalization online, and horrifying, frankly, to see how young these individuals are and how close it seems to execution they were. That these arrests were a matter of hours, frankly, before the concerts began, and led police to be nervous enough that that concert organisers cancelled all three altogether. Wolf?
Yeah, very, very worrisome indeed. Nick Paton-Walsh reporting for us. We'll stay in close touch with you. I know new information is coming in all of the time. Let's get some analysis right now from CNN national security analyst Peter Bergen. Peter, what do you make of this latest terror plot?
Well, I think it's good they canceled the concerts. As Nick indicated, it seems that the three suspects that's the full extent of it. But clearly, this was pretty well advanced with the explosive precursors, all the planning that Nick just described. And also it fits into a modus operandi of ISIS attacking concert venues. We remember just in March, Wolf, that there was an attack on a concert venue in Moscow where 145 people were killed by ISIS recruits. And we've also seen attacks on an Ariana Grande concert in Manchester in 2017 that killed 22 by an ISIS recruit, and 2 years before that, an attack on a concert hall in Paris where 80 people were killed when they were listening to a heavy metal band, American band. So, you know, this has been a kind of consistent theme. And then, of course, in the UK, where Nick is reporting from, an attack on a party that was celebrating Taylor Swift, a dance party in which 3 kids were killed and quite a lot of others are injured, and that has produced all these anti-immigrant riots in Britain because this attack was wrongly blamed on an immigrant online.
At the main suspect's house, Peter, Austrian investigators found chemicals, explosive devices, detonators, as well as ISIS propaganda. 21,000 euros in counterfeit money, machetes, knives, anabolic steroids. What do you make of all of that?
Well, I make of that, you know, this was not sort of a maybe plot that was kind of just, you know, I mean, lots of people talking online, lots of people get inspired by ISIS or other terrorist groups, and you know, there may be chatter online. I mean, clearly this plot was pretty advanced. If the detail about the blue police light that he was going to put on his car, and as Nick pointed out, it's not that he needed to get into the venue. There were going to be thousands of Taylor Swift fans outside the venue that he could have killed, you know, using his car, using the knives that have been described. maybe using some of these explosive precursors. So he could have done a great deal of damage without actually accessing the concert itself.
And as you point out, Peter, there is precedent for this type of plot. The 2017 suicide bombing, as you pointed out, at an Ariana Grande concert in Manchester, as well as that mass shooting at a Route 91 Harvest Festival in Las Vegas. Taylor Swift in 2019 talked about her fears in an Elle magazine interview following those two attacks. And let me read to you a quote from her in that interview. After the Manchester Arena bombing and the Las Vegas concert shooting, I was completely terrified to go on tour this time because I didn't know how we were going to keep 3 million fans safe. That's a quote. Should we expect, Peter, more of these so-called soft target attacks, especially at various concert venues in the U.S. and indeed around the world?
I mean, I think the short answer is yes. I mean, if you're a terrorist, it's guaranteed to produce a mass casualty event if you can pull it off. It's a soft target, and you don't. Sure, there may be a security perimeter to get inside the event, but there are people outside the event. And it's interesting that Taylor Swift mentioned the Las Vegas concert, which is the largest mass shooting in U.S. history. We still don't know the motive of the person who carried out that attack. He wasn't inspired by ISIS. He wasn't a right-wing domestic terrorist. He seems to be a bit like these people that we're always trying to find a why, and sometimes there is no why, and that's very unsatisfactory. But right now, clearly, ISIS has a long record of either carrying out these attacks or inspiring these attacks at concerts, and I think it's perfectly reasonable to be concerned going forward about the protection of these concerts and the protection of the concert goers. And I think the Austrian authorities, in an excess of caution, did the right thing, which is cancel this concert. Hopefully she's got other concerts planned in the UK. Hopefully there won't be anybody who's inclined to attack those, and that the tour will end, peacefully.
Let's hope, indeed. I'm so concerned about all of this. Peter Bergen, thanks as usual for joining us.